Okay, so we're back, and this is going to be um, Project 2, the second portion. The first portion, we set Garamond, Baskerville, Bodoni, and Century Expanded. This is worth 20 points, okay? What I'm getting ready to show you, we're going to create a new document, and this new document is going to be all about Helvetica, and this is worth 80 points. So combined, we have a 100-point project here. So what we're going to do in InDesign is we're going to create a new document, and we're going to make it 10 inches by 10 inches. Now, be really careful here because we're measured in picas right now. So for the width, type in 10 and IN. If you don't put the IN in there, it assumes you want 10 picas, which is about the size of a poster for a Barbie doll. So make sure you type in 10 IN in both the width and the height. And, oops, I didn't. I put the height as 10 picas, 10 IN. Okay, it should be 60 pica by 60 pica because there's 6 picas in an inch. Okay, turn off facing pages because this is not a book. We're going to have one page anyway. And for the columns, we'll just leave it at 1 because this is pretty freestyle. Everything should be randomly set. Nothing should be aligned flush left, reg right, centered. Everything should be completely random. So we're going to leave our columns at 1. We're going to go ahead and leave the margins at ½ inch, which is 3 picas. Now, we do want to talk about the bleed for a moment because in the example in the book on page 108, the big lowercase e, it goes right off the page. When something goes right off the page, that's called a bleed. So we want to turn on, for the new document, we want to turn our bleeds on. So click on bleed and slug, that little area. The slug we don't care about, but the bleed we do. And the bleed is usually 1/8 of an inch wide, which is equivalent to 9 points. So not 9 picas. Picas are big units. So that'd be 1½ inches. We want 1/8 of an inch. So if you do this, if you type in P9, that means 0 pica, 9 points. Okay? If you hit the tab key, it should automatically put your top, bottom, left, and right bleed at P9. If you don't have them all in there, click on the little chain link. If it's broken, you'll click on it. It'll not be broken. It'll make them all the same. Okay? So hopefully they're all the same. Now, you do have a preview button in this new document window. And if we hit the preview button, you can see that this looks slightly different than any document we've done so far. We've only done 2 documents in this class so far, but this third document has a red line outside in the gray space. That red line indicates the bleed area, okay? It's how far we need to have a graphic pulled so that it'll bleed properly, and when we print it, we'll trim that part off, okay? So when we have this 60 pica by 60 pica, which is 10 inches by 10 inches, we turned off facing pages, and we set the bleed at P9. When all that looks good, we hit OK, and there's our document. I'm going to go to File and Save As, and I'm going to call it Project 2 Helvetica. You need to name this a different one, and then my name. Okay? We can't just call it Project 2 in your name because we already have one called Project 2 in your name. So we're going to call this Project 2 Helvetica. So this is like the part 2. Project 2 Helvetica, and then your name. And put it in your Project 2 folder. Okay. Let the fun begin. Usually when I'm handed something that I have to design for, I actually read the copy so then I can design for what the copy says. Typography and design exist solely to honor the content of what it is you're given. And if we were to look on page 52, it has that same paragraph we used on Project 1, but it has this type. It says, Helvetica is a sans serif typeface of Swiss origin. Ooh, I like Swiss origin. Let's learn about Swiss origin. Let's go and ask the Google. Helvetica, Swiss. What am I going to see? Oh, I could read all about it on Wikipedia. I could look at images. I could do, oh my goodness, look at what people have done with Helvetica. Somebody made it like a Swiss Army knife. How clever. Connecting two dots that should have never been connected. But they did it in such a great way. That's called a concept. When you connect two dots that should never be connected, and you're like, oh, everybody looks like, oh, that's really good. That's called a concept. This one has a white cross in it because I bet the Swiss flag has that in there. Why is everything red and black and white? Well, if we study the Swiss flag, it's red, black, and white. Let's just type in the Swiss flag, shall we? What? Well, I'm sorry, white and red. My goodness, I bet there's a whole design movement called the Swiss Design Movement, and the only reason I know this is because I've done some research. Swiss Design Movement. Let's see what they, oh, wow, this is, oh, so interesting. Oh, that is sexy. Look at that. Come to Mama Helvetica. Isn't that gorgeous? We don't have to be bored to tears with what we're doing. We can do stuff that's all churched up and awesome. But in order to do that well, we should do some research, gain a little knowledge about this. Then when we attack this, we can attack it with brains and know-how, and you know, like we actually looked at something that made sense. Now, if you start making everything pink and purple and yellow and orange, it makes no sense because we did a little research and those colors don't necessarily, oh, I don't know, that looks pretty good. But those colors don't necessarily reflect this movement. Wow, this is also very interesting. See, this has nothing to do with Helvetica. Well, it does. It's part of the Swiss Design Movement. It's something that was designed during the Swiss Design Movement. I'm like, ooh, that is so inspirational. Right? You guys inspired? I am. It sure as hell beats something boring. Oh my, look at that. That looks like loads of fun. It's kind of small, though. So the first thing I do when somebody gives me something with body copy, and I actually have the freedom to do design, since design exists and typography exists to honor the content, I read all about it. Okay? First read, do research, then do your magic. Okay? So that's the secret to good design, or the beginnings of good design. All right, so now I'm ready. I'm ready to play around. Now, I would sit there and read and do a little bit more research, but I've been around Helvetica for a while now, so I understand Helvetica. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will grab the type that I used for Project 1. Unfortunately, the only one I set was Garamond, but you guys all have your Helvetica body copy in Microsoft Word, so you grab that. Oh my gosh, I don't have it, so I really, man, does anybody have that on them on their flash drive? I can steal it real quick. Okay, Descena's got it on her flash drive. Sorry, she raised her hand first. Make sure you eject it. Drag that little guy to the trash can before you do anything, otherwise it might mess you up. And if you're saving your file to it, okay. Yeah, and I'm going to steal it, but you got to tell me where it's at, so don't look at your pictures you don't want to look at. Oh, she's so organized. It's going to be on the typography class folder. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I appreciate that because that's going to take me a little while to typeset that, and I don't want to. So she's saying it's in her typography class folder. Look at how organized. Project 1, so organized. Up. Oh, kind of organized. Hey! Oh, it's done. Hold on. It's done exporting. Sorry. Give me a second. Typography class. Okay, so she has Helvetica right there. Oh, you are just a godsend. Thank you. It's copying. And the way you eject a drive from the Mac is you click on it and drag it to the trash can. It doesn't throw anything away. It just ejects it. You wait, and it should be okay, and you pull it out. Thank you, Descena. I so appreciate that. All right. Yay! Okay, so the first thing I do is I import the text, but I'm like importing it so I can copy and paste from it because this is all supposed to be random settings. So I just draw a random text box any old place. Oftentimes I'll move that out to the pasteboard here in just a second. Grab my type tool, stick it in there, let it click. There's a little cursor going, hey, I want some type. And so I go to File and Place, and I am going to use Descena's Helvetica, thank you very kindly. I just threw it on the desktop because I wasn't very organized. Oh, Calibri is oh, I don't care. Calibri, you can just go away. going to select all, and I'm going to make this Helvetica, but I want to make sure it's the right Helvetica. Oh my God, look at all the Helveticas. This will be Helvetica New, LT with the S, the T, and the D. You can use, my God, there are so many. I mean, I can scroll. Look at how many. Oh my God. We're going to use Helvetica New, though, and you have over 20 choices from this. So I'm going to just start out with Roman because that's just the way I roll initially. And I need to get rid of the extra Helvetica. I just need one Helvetica. There we go. So this guy is going to be where I'm going to copy and paste from, okay? We're also going to talk about breaking for sense, meaning like don't break a line of type where it's kind of this weird awkward pause and then you think it's one thing and then you start to read the next line and you're like, oh, now I got to rethink this. This happened on a resume yesterday. Oh, yeah. It was a lady's profile statement on a resume, and she had a 2-column profile statement, and we talked about her graphic stuff. The last 2 words were good time. And then the next column, it was management. But I'm like, da-da-da-da, good time. Oh, she's a party girl. And I go, oh, management. Oh, okay, she's not. And so that's a bad break. So we want to break for sense. So you got to watch that stuff. So here's our beginning. Now, what I might do with this, I'm going to hit Command minus a few times. That zooms out. I might put this out on the pasteboard. I'm going to make it long and skinny and put it out on the pasteboard. I'm going to zoom in so I can see the pasteboard and that type. And I zoom in by clicking and dragging a box over the area of the type and the document. And I'm going to start stealing from it. First, I have this awesome headline called Helvetica. So I'm triple clicking on the word Helvetica, which is that headline. You could double click really. So Command C. And then I draw a text box out here and I hit Command V as in Victor and I put him in there. Now I could break this up into different text boxes for every letter if I wanted to. Okay, now it's a little bit of work, but anything worth doing fabulously is going to take a little bit of work. So I'm going to zoom in just a smidge here, and I'm going to break every letter into an individual text box. Call me crazy, but I'm just like that. You do not have to break every letter of this headline into its own text box. All right, I'm just doing this because I'm crazy. So I am going to copy this text box a few times. So I just do the Alt-drag thing multiple times, however many letters there are in Helvetica. And I'm going to, I suppose I could just type in the H in one and the E in the other. And you could use a mixture of upper and lower case. You could do all uppercase. It's up to you. You just have a good time with this. I'm missing one text box, so let me get one more in here. And we know this is all set in Helvetica because I already told it to be. So I have all these in different text boxes. And then when you do this, make sure you make that bounding box about as big as the letter. So you just click on one of the corner nodes, double click on it, and it will do that. That's so cool. You don't have all that extra space. Assuming you're with the black arrow tool, the selection tool. Click on a box and double click on one of those corner nodes, and it will break it down into a beautiful little bounding box instead of hanging out there really big. Now this is really tiny right now. That's a tiny little Helvetica. Now Helvetica has some serious mozzie, so I'm going to make this stuff bigger. Now, I'm going to start with the H because that's the beginning letter of the word. Now, guys, what I'm going to show you and share with you, my design is my design. I should not see anyone's design looking like mine, okay? Oh, that sounds like a green eggs and ham sort of thing, a Dr. Seuss. My design is mine. I should not see anything that looks like mine, okay? My design is my design. I should see none that look like mine. That sounds like Dr. Seuss. Okay. So even though you might be following along and doing some of the things I do, yours should not look like mine in the end. All right, we're just practicing right now. All right, let me share with you the magic of making letters as big as you want without having to type in any numbers. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And I have my black arrow tool, the selection tool selected. Oh my, I can't even see my letters, it's so small. Let me zoom in just a smidge. with the black arrow tool selected, you can single click on a corner of your H. Don't start dragging yet, but before you even click, hold down Shift and Command. Shift and Command is a major thing in InDesign. Shift Command, then click on the corner, wait for a second, and then start dragging. Oh, look, you have absolute control. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Shift Command, click, wait, and then drag. Now, if you click and drag and don't wait, you get the empty box, and then when you let off, it'll show you how big it gets. But many of us are intuitive designers. We want to see what it looks like as it's getting larger or smaller. Now, in my opinion, that H is a little wimpy, so I am going to make this bold. Oh, my box has disappeared. Okay, bolder is bigger, so it's just taking up more space. Now I'm going to see what other things I have. Do I have an extra? Oh, I got a heavy. Oh, that's heavy is bolder than bold. Oh, do I have others? I have black, extra black. Oh, I like extra black. Oh, that's extra black condensed. I want just extra black. Do they have just an extra black in here? You got to kind of dig around for it. Black extended. Where's extra black? Regular. Looks like we're mixing extra black. I'll just go black then. There we go. Like, ooh, I like that H. As compared to the regular, this thing has some motsy. I like it. So again, I can hold down Shift and Command and click on a corner node, wait, and then drag until I like the size that it is. Totally intuitive. Okay, now, let's see. I am examining the negative space, and Miss T, I'm sorry, you've heard this before. I'm examining the negative space of this H, and I have concluded that if I put H's all the way around, I could create possibly a cross. Let's find out. So I'm going to Alt drag that H. And then if I float my cursor over a corner, it turns into a rotational tool. And if I hold down the Shift key while I rotate, it will rotate 45 and 90 degrees. And then I'm going to push it up in here. And let's see, where do I want? I may have to zoom in so that I know if these are lined up. Ooh, it's hard to see black on black, isn't it? But I want these lined up to one another. I may have to make that a different color so I can even see it, and then I'll make it. Oh, there we go. I can see now. I just zoomed in too far. But I'm going to pull this down so that it lines up to the other guy. There we go. You guys see part of a cross in there now? I'm so tricky. I'm going to rotate it again, holding down the Shift key. I'm doing a 180. And yes, it matters because the crossbar of that H is not perfectly centered. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to position this one so he is perfectly aligned. Now, if I click and hold and wait, I can actually see it live. So click, hold, wait, then move, and you'll see it moving in live time versus you guessing. And the last one would be this guy right here. So I have just created from this H something that is, well, it's related to the topic. Swiss design movement, Swiss flag, that kind of thing. Now I'm going to hit the W key so we can see what we got. Ooh, I'm a little off right there. So this, I would make this perfect. So I would take my time, zoom in, make everything perfect. Right now it's a little imperfect. Okay. So what should I do next? Let's see. You know what? I'm going to be lazy for just a second. I'm going to grab my E. Let me make him bigger. That's Shift Command, click and drag, super quick. And I am going to grab all of these and I'm going to move them off to the side. Oh, that's not what I wanted. When there's all tiny like this, it's really hard to work with them. So you can grab all of them and hold down Shift and Command, and you can make them all larger at the same time even. It's really cool. You don't have to deal with one object at a time. But I'm going to move these out to the side because I'm not sure how I'm going to work this yet. But I'm going to put this over here, and for this, I'm going to spell out the whole word. Helvetica. You know what? I'm going to go Helve. I'm going to get rid of the tica. That sounds weird. And I'm going to put tica in its own box. So I just copied and pasted. I'm going to break this up a little bit. And this, I don't know. I don't like this Roman thing, so I'm going to go with something a little heavier. And then I think I'll put it right about here. And I think I will let that E run right into that H. What the heck, why not? And I'm going to have it line up to this central line here. About as tall as this center stroke, crossbar stroke. So even though this is supposed to be completely randomly set, I'm still doing secret alignments here and there. So there's Helvetica, and then Tika. Sounds weird to call it that. But I'm going to make that the same point size as Helve, which is 85.463. I don't care. I'm going to select that, copy it, go in here, and then paste that number into that field. There we go, same size. And I wanted this to be, I'll make that black, we'll see. And I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And it's going to go, ooh, I like where that's going right there. I just find places that look like they itch and they need scratched, you know? Like typography is like itchy and it needs scratching. So like when I see something, I'm like, ooh, that looks like it's almost aligning. That itches. That itches my eyes to death. So let's scratch it and let's move it over here and get it to align. Even though this is supposed to be completely random setting, it still is. But I am aligning the finishing stroke of that E with the main stroke of the T. Brilliant! Sometimes it's brilliant, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it just bothers people. If it really bothers you, we'll move it. Okay, so I'm like, okay, that's pretty good, but this space right here needs to be equal to that, so I'm going to have to do a little sacrifice, and I'm going to have to move this down. Oh, I hate that I have to do that. There we go. I just use the arrow key on the keyboard to move that down. I'm like, oh, that just doesn't look right. This tika should end right there at that H. So I do have some, maybe I make this bigger. So I'm sitting there making decisions right and left about what it is I want to do with this thing. So I was holding down Shift and Command while I was dragging that. I'm like, ooh, this looks more sexy. I like it. Even though the tika is a little bigger, I don't think anybody's going to complain yet. Okay, so I'm like, maybe that's okay. I think this is too bold though. So let's change it to just heavy. Maybe even a little bit lighter, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's still too bold. So I'm going to make this maybe a medium. So I sit there and I go through, or bold, there we go. I make it so it's, even though it's a bigger point size, I try to make it feel more unified with the Helve part of it because it just seemed too thick. So I'm going to keep on playing. You just keep playing, and like I said, type is kind of itchy, so I just keep scratching it till it looks right, till it feels right. Okay, that's kind of fun. The tika is a little big, but we'll see what I can do. Now, with this, I might even take the whole thing. I might hit Command A. Oops, I don't want everything because that gives me all the stuff in the everything. I don't want everything on this. So you can, cool thing about the black arrow tool or the selection tool is it's contact sensitive. So I click out here where there's nothing. I'm in no man's land, and I start dragging and coming in contact with these elements. As long as it comes in contact with them, it selects them. That's really nice. And I can rotate this whole thing. Now we're talking Swiss design movement. A little rotation goes a long way to this Swiss design movement stuff. It's getting sexier and sexier as we speak. Ooh, look at that. I just moved it so it just went right off the edge of the page. That's called bleeding. Oh, it just seems like it really needs that to go off the edge of the page too. So we just keep on making these decisions. Like, uh-oh, readability is sacrificed. That's not good. We need to do something about that. So things can go off the edge or to the edge. You just have to watch your readability, okay? In fact, this little white space is bothering me so much up here that I will go ahead and get my box tool or even my pen tool, but probably a box tool, and I will draw a box about as wide as that H, fill it with black, and I will rotate it at the same degree of rotation as this, which if I click on that, it'll tell me that's 22 degrees, right there in the rotation box. So I'm going to type in 22 degrees in my rotation box. And I'm going to align this so it looks like that is extending out. I'm going to do the same thing over here because that was driving me bonkers. I didn't like that negative space that was left over. Ooh, now that looks weird. No, I don't like it. It threw it out of proportion completely. That crossbar now needs to move up. I may have to build my own H. Nobody will know. as long as I'm using the same proportions as this H. So I may actually build my own H to get this to work, to take advantage of it. But then the cross might go away and it's kind of funky. So, gosh, what do I do? So I'm making these decisions right and left. Like, this just kind of sucks, that little space up there. So let me fill this with black, making a bigger box, rotate it 22 degrees because that's what everything else is. And do I just simply knock in a box up there to just close off that space? And does that feel better? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I just live with that. Okay, so I'm going to save that. We'll deal with that later. Now, so this is just the headline. I am just having loads of fun with this headline. So I'm ready to move on, even though I really want to spend some more time finessing this. So this body copy is the next thing I've got to deal with. This stuff right here. Now, I can't just set it right here and go, ooh, I'm calling it a day. I'm done. No, because this is all flush left, ragged right, and nothing's supposed to align. So this is going to be some work here, folks. Let me delete that. There are a couple ways you can approach this. And you can do all different typefaces. First of all, let's kill the hyphens. Always kill the hyphens. I always mark down. You get marked down points if you don't kill your hyphens. So kill your hyphens right off the bat. That way don't give you any problems. And I also hit Command S to save this because I don't want to do anything over and over again. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to break these for sense. Break for sense. Helvetica is sans serif typeface. So I could break there. And of Swiss origin can be on its own line. Or I could have that whole sentence on its own line. But I'm going to get a little adventurous. I am going to, now this is where we're going to click and drag. We're going to steal from one thing. So I just clicked and dragged and I hit Command C for copy. And now with the type tool, I'm drawing a separate box out here and I'm hitting Command V for paste. Okay? And I can use all different sizes of Helvetica. I can use all different styles. But right now I'm just going to stick with this for now. It's 12 point, I think. Let's see what point size. 12 point Helvetica. That's pretty large for body copy, but we're okay. Now, of Swiss origin is it's going to be its own line, so I click and drag over of Swiss origin, and I copy it, and then I create a text box and paste it in there. If I hit the escape tool, it gets me the black arrow tool, and I double click, and I'm like, there we go. Now, I might do something with this of Swiss origin. That might be colored red or something. You guys can play with color here if you want. It doesn't have to be black and white only. Now be careful about black type on a red background or red type on a black background. Be careful of that. It reduces legibility by about 60%. So if I were to draw a big red box here, let me show you what I mean. This would be the swatches panel. I can go get the red. And oop, it's in front of everything. So let me go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. This right here, guys, it reduces legibility by 60%. That means people have 60% harder time reading it. Black type on a red background. Just make the type white and use some black accents here or there. The other thing, the opposite can be said. If your type is red, selecting the type and I'm making it red, and I'm going to make the box black. Oops, not blue, black. Same thing. 60% reduction in legibility. Okay. Lesson number 1 on color and typography. Do not use two colors that are close in value. Red and black are close in value. In old movies, black and white movies, before they had color movies, they used chocolate syrup to represent blood. And chocolate syrup is what color? It's dark brown, nearly black. That's because it was the same value as blood. Value is different than color. Value is kind of the, if you took it in gray space, they look the same. Okay? So please, I'm giving you this very, very important lesson. No red type on a black background, no black type on a red background. Period. Capiche? The only time this works is if you have really, really, really big type. Then it can work. But little type like this, not good. Body copy, Okay, so a little lesson there. I'm going to keep that black box. I might need him later, so I'm going to park him off to the side. He looks like he might be handy. In fact, I'm going to put him in here. I'm going to 22% rotate him because everything else is rotated at 22%. Wouldn't he look good right about there? Just goofing off. Yeah, right about there. Maybe he goes right off the edge. It's called bleeding. That is sexy. I like that. Sorry, I think type is sexy. It's fabulous stuff. Okay, but before I get too crazy, I got to get into what am I going to do with this type? So let's see. Helvetica is a sans serif typeface. Wow, what's the most important thing in this statement? Helvetica is a sans serif typeface of Swiss origin. Swiss and sans serif. Sans serif means without serif. So I could actually go in here and make those bigger if I wanted to. Oh, my box disappeared. Oh, this is why sometimes I work with my text boxes really wide first and foremost. Make them bigger. But I'm like, this is sans serif. Bigger. And I might drop that down a little bit because it feels out of balance. So I'm grabbing sans serif. And if I poke around here, right here I've got a little letter A with a big letter A, and the little letter A is pushed above that. So I'm going to go below. Oh, look at that. I'm pushing the down arrow, and it moves the baseline down. That looks much more balanced now. Very nice. I might even decide, since this is bigger, I'm going to go even bigger. Now, here's another way to go bigger. Shift Command greater than. Ooh, I didn't have to go up there and change the numbers. Shift Command greater than, assuming you have it highlighted with the black arrow tool. Maybe I go with a completely different style, and maybe I choose 35 thin since I'm going so big. I don't want it to get too crazy and too out of whack with that other type. So I'm using the baseline shift right here to move it down. There we go. That to me looks pretty good. I'm drawing out sans serif. And Swiss, you know what? I'm not going to go crazy with that. I'm going to highlight it and just make it red. Because, well, you know, the Swiss flag is red. And I might offset these a little bit. Because the whole point of this is to have a random setup. Nothing should be aligning. So, Helvetica is a sans serif typeface of Swiss origin. First statement. Okay, so that makes sense how I broke it and how it's reading. Now I might rotate it later, I'm not sure. I don't know how I got that red, but I'm going to go black. I guess I got busy playing with it. There we go. Now it says, although typefaces without serifs were used in the 19th century, it was not until the 20th century that they became popular. Okay, that's to me is I don't really care. I don't care what that says. It's not that important. But I'm going to use it because it's in there. But I'm not going to highlight it and make it all crazy. So I'm going to put some of that in here. Now, I could leave it here, but I'm doing the wrong thing because this is flush left, rag right, and everything's supposed to be non-aligned. Okay? So in this case, there's a couple ways to handle this. You could do this where you put your cursor in at the beginning of a letter of the next line. If you just hit the space bar, nothing's going to happen. But as soon as you hit return and then start hitting the space bar, oh, look, I'm not aligning them. Oh, very nice. And the 20th century, I'm going to hit return and go space bar that. Oops, it went to the next line. That means the box is too short, so I got to stretch the box out. Okay, this is not centered, it's not flush left, it's not flush right, it's not justified. Totally unaligned. Check. That's the main objective of this assignment, other than making this look absolutely cool. So that looks like it'll fit right in there. May have to deal with this box later. Get out of here. There we go. I'm kind of bored with that, but I'm going to leave it for now. You know what? In fact, I'm so bored with that statement, I'm going to de-emphasize it by making it a thin type. Not italics, but just thin. Just something light. There we go. Don't care about that. Oh, it just doesn't seem light enough. Oh, I want an ultralight. I don't really care about that statement. Oh, there's an ultralight. Awesome. Okay, there we go. Insignificant, but there. Thank you. It's called visual hierarchy. What things are most important? Make them look most important. So I'm dealing with visual hierarchy. Ultralight on that because I really don't care. And, in fact, if you want to make this look like it had depth, like mountains, you know, like one in front, one in the back, and, oh, you could do this. Oh, let's pretend like it's like a back mountain in the background. I'm holding down Shift and Command, I'm clicking and dragging, and I'm making it smaller too, as if it's going off into space somewhere because I really don't care much about that statement. It's important, but not that important. All right, let's read the next statement. Oops, I think that's supposed to be in 1957. Yes, in 1957, the Haas foundry introduced Haas Grotesque. Ugh. They called these fonts grotesque because the first sans serif, which this was not the first sans serif, by the way. There was a font called Grotesque. There's one called Oxenden's Grotesque, which sounds all German. When they took the serifs off, people are like, ew, you're going to make us blind. That's awful. It's so grotesque. Because those serifs made everything look so, austere and elegant and beautiful and sophisticated. And then they just lopped them off. And everybody's like, ew. So the word grotesque is because people literally were like, ew, you're making my stomach turn. That font is ugly. So that's where that comes from. I think that word is important, and I'm going to make it look grotesque because I like having fun like that. And it was designed by Max Meitinger, who worked with also Edward Hoffman on that. And but Max is the guy who's credited with it. So there's a couple of, oh my gosh, this statement is so important. 1957. Oh, by the way, this is the only typeface that has a movie. Have you guys seen the Helvetica typeface, the Helvetica movie yet? Anybody seen that? Okay, Keisha's seen it. Clay's seen it. Okay, this is the only typeface that has its own movie. I'm not talking like a 10-minute short. I'm talking like an hour-and-a-half long movie. So 1957 was important. That was when Mad Men was around. Remember the Mad Men show? Yeah, great show about advertising and all that stuff. Well, Helvetica was like all the rage. It was like, oh my God, this new thing. It's awesome. It went through the 70s as like every ad place was using Helvetica like nobody's business. It took 20 years for it to die. We still use it, but not as much. But Grotesque, Max Mettinger, and later it was called Helvetica. Oh my gosh, there's so much in this statement. So I'm going to copy it. That's a lot of stuff in that statement. I'm going to paste it out here. I may strip it down a little bit. Move him out of the way because he's okay. So gosh, 57 is not as important as grotesque to me. So I'm going to take this, in 1957, the Haas Foundry was introduced, and I'm going to make it its own text box. Oops, I could put a little space bar in there. Oh, and just because I killed hyphens on one thing doesn't mean they're all killed. See, there's a hyphen. You have to do it on every box. So this part right here, not as important to me. Even the 1957 is like, eh. He goes right there. Grotesque. Oh, Haas Grotesque. Ooh. Let's take Haas and put him in his own box because Haas to me is not that important, but Grotesque is super important. So I'm copy and pasting. Okay, in 1957, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I don't want it aligned with anything introduced. Haas is going to stay small because to me, I don't care about the word Haas. It's going to stay small. I'm having so much fun and class is over. Oh my gosh. No wonder I'm hearing you guys stir so much. And Grotesque is getting really big, and I would do some really fun things with this Grotesque thing, but I'm out of time. But hopefully you guys get the idea of what's going on here. I don't have this finished, but you can kind of envision where it's going. Ooh, Haas should go up the side. I'm going to rotate that up the side. There we go, Haas. You look like you're comfortable there. Comfortable little caterpillar. There we go. That looks pretty sexy there. And I just keep on going until I have all of this. Oh, it's getting so much fun, and I have to quit. But you guys hopefully get the idea of this. This is going to look really, really awesome when you're done. I'm going to save it. And I probably would package it if I'm going to take it home and work on it because I want to load my fonts and stuff. And I will stop the video because you guys can keep on going with this. Let's see, stop recording.